Right. Good afternoon, everyone. A very, very warm welcome to you. I hope you are all warm and dry on this cold February. Um, but we are seeing snowdrops. The days are getting longer. It's going to be okay. Uh, we know, though, that that's all in the context of rising costs for businesses. So we know that's all still a challenge. And on that point, if you did miss our first training session of the year, that was on business rates last week, and you can access that on our website. And we'll put a link to our training page in the chat. I'm Lisa Carlson. I'm the Chief Exec of Canterbury's Business Improvement District, and we are delighted to be joined today by our marketing team. So we've got Rachel and Joe and Sinead, who you'll hear from in just a moment. And our guest today, who's delivering this amazing session on AI, is Ben Fitter-Harding. Thank you very much from Dodgems Floss. So Ben will be delivering our training session in just a few minutes. We've got some exciting training sessions coming up as well. So there's a series on safety and security. So we'll be picking up again on counterterrorism, which we've done historically for a number of years. Also sessions on see, check and notify training. So if that's of interest to you and your staff, please do get in touch. And again, we'll put those links in the chat. And then a whole marketing series will follow as well. So looking at techniques for cybersecurity, looking at WhatsApp, looking at the generation gap, so different audiences and how to engage with them, and influencers as well. So lots of interesting things coming up. But for now, I'll hand over to Rachel, who's our Head of Marketing and Communications.
Thank you, Lisa, and hello, everybody. I would like to very quickly go through a few events that we've got coming up. So Joe's going to kindly share her screen. These are key events for your diaries. I will put in the chat our calendar of events for the whole year, but I just thought it'd be really important for you to have a few of the key cornerstone events, so you're aware of them and you can plan your communications around it. So just coming up in the spring, summer, one of the big moments for us is going to be on the 25th of March, when all eyes will be on Canterbury as Archbishop Sarah will be installed to Archbishop of Canterbury. They are expecting international press. We're going to make sure the city's looking as welcoming as possible. And there will be some VVVVIPs coming. So it's an exciting day for Canterbury, and we're expecting to get a lot of coverage. The Cathedral are working on a campaign to take them through from March through the summer, celebrating the role of Sarah as the first female Archbishop of Canterbury. So we'll be able to cover a lot of press with that. Other things just to keep an eye out for: Canterbury Wine Festival returns on the 16th of May. The levelling up work that Canterbury City Council are currently investing in will be celebrated on the 24th of May with a citywide event, which will utilise a lot of the spaces that they have been working on, including the Dane John Gardens, which will be open by then, and the Westgate Towers, where it will have its first iteration as an event space, which is very exciting. There's also a lot of work around getting Canterbury to become a city of literature, a UNESCO city of literature. So you'll find that there'll be a lot of events coming through that are focused around Christopher Marlowe, Aphra Behn, and the various writers that have been influenced by Canterbury or were born in Canterbury. Pride returns for its 10th anniversary on the 6th of June, so get ready for that. It'll be back in the Dane John, and with a colourful parade through the city centre. Can't wait for that. Canterbury Cricket Week is, I think it's 106th Canterbury Cricket Week, or it might be 107th, which is running from the 19th to the 28th of June, so keep an eye out for that. It does bring in a lot of people, and they have family days and various different community events. Just to let you know, the medieval pageant will be returning for 2026, and that's taking place on the 4th of July. Because the Bayer Tapestry is coming to England this year, so from September, we believe, in the British Museum, and Canterbury, as I have been reliably informed by many people, is where the biotapestry was made. And I know that's a bold claim, but if you Wikipedia it, it's true. So the medieval pageant will be focused on the biotapestry, and we'll be encouraging all of the people that come along to the trail to create a Canterbury tapestry, possibly out of paper. I don't think I'm going to stitch it myself, but there we go. So the 4th of July. There's a children's literature festival between the 10th and the 12th of July. The City Show returns again. I think they're hoping to do that in the Westgate, around the Westgate Towers from the 25th to 26th. And Summertime Live, which is a 3-day event up at Kent Cricket, is expected to see around 40,000 visitors. So anyone in the hospitality industry need to keep an eye out for that. There are 2 themes coming up, obviously with the biotapestry coming to London, but also the Year of the Normans, which is for 2027. And with us having a Canterbury Norman castle, there's going to be some great links as we move forward. And that's all I've got to share with you at the moment. Obviously, there are loads of events still to come up. But as Lisa said, we're going to be running these marketing events every month, and we will be extending the events calendar as and when we have these sessions. So I'm going to pass over to Jo now, who's going to cover the campaigns that we're focusing on as Canterbury Bid.
Hello, everyone. So I can you hear me okay? Okay. So I'm Jo. I work with Rachel and in the marketing team for Canterbury Bid, and I oversee the My Canterbury platform, which is our local platform to reach residents and students and workers in the city. We are across Instagram and Facebook, and we also have a mailing list for newsletters that go out to mailing lists of over 10,000 subscribers currently. So this slide is just to give you an idea of the 3 core campaigns, obviously coming up. We're in the middle of Valentine's Day promotion at the moment, which we're very much sharing lots of content across our socials from bid businesses. We are also about to send out a newsletter focusing on gifts, quirky gifts, different ideas. We also have some dedicated reels that we have commissioned from a brilliant content creator who is from university. And so those will be rolled out over the next week. So the idea of that is to use Valentine's Day as a hook in order to draw attention to the different quarters across the city. So we've got the Castle Quarter, the Cathedral Quarter, the King's Mile, and the West End Quarter. So just looking at the different industries and sectors across those quarters, a couple of hospitality, retail, salons. So that's the idea for our Valentine's promotion. Currently, there's a highlight on our Facebook and Instagram. So we encourage everybody to tag My Canterbury, so then I can pop it in the highlight and share it on our stories. We've then got Mother's Day coming up after that, and then so that's going to similarly have newsletter and socials, really focusing around events, gift ideas. We'll be going into the city, doing some carousels and reels of different ideas for gifts, and a newsletter. And then up comes Easter, which obviously we can focus on kids events over the Easter holidays. We're also going to be doing quite a bit of focus on local produce because it will be springtime. We'll be talking about local wines, local cheeses, companies that source their food locally and source their ingredients locally. So that's going to be a big one. And then alongside all of that, we've just opened advertising for our printed city guide for the summer. And the publication date will be the 1st of May. So if you want to if you want to look at the advertising opportunities within that, that will have a print run of 20,000, and it will be distributed around Canterbury, door-to-door delivery as well, and then pick-up points within the city. Also certain places in Whitstable and Herne Bay. So it's got a really big reach. So at the end of this, I can put the link on to all the information about advertising there as well. So that's a really good opportunity that's opened up last week. So that's it from me, unless anybody had any questions.
Thank you, Jo. I'll tell you what, we're going to pop over to Sinead and for some socials updates, and then we'll put some anyone who's got any questions, pop them in the chat, and we'll chat them through once we've heard from Ben. So Sinead, over to you.
Hi everyone. Yeah, very quick update from me. Obviously, the social media channels for Visit Canterbury continue to grow. Obviously, our biggest ones are Instagram and Facebook. So all of the campaigns that Jo has mentioned and Rachel and the events, they will be supported with content on their interest. Obviously, in Canterbury, we are seeing a lot of good user-generated content. Obviously, that's been going for a while, but Canterbury being included in a lot of recommendations for spring going ahead for the year, day trips from London, which is really encouraging. It means we're not having to necessarily create everything. People are talking about it and sharing it. As we come into the spring, to all of the businesses as well, if there is content that you have, if there are images, if there's ideas for reels, Visit Canterbury is very much focused on the visitor. So we try and make something holistic that can be a visitor experience, but we have done some experiences for businesses in the city. So if there's anything that you particularly want to share or that you have ideas for, please reach out. Absolutely happy to come and visit, or to give advice or tips on social media in general. As ever in these sorts of talks, I sometimes give an overview of what's happening with social media, and it's a very big subject, as you can imagine, and how applicable it is to smaller businesses or business in Canterbury is sort of, how long is a piece of string. Obviously, there are things in the news to keep abreast of what's happening with social media, comments about, the worries about banning it for under 16s, but also you have the rise of Gen Alpha who are coming on to a lot of social media. How is that going to affect algorithms and the content that's going to be shared? You've obviously got TikTok's buyout over in America. These sorts of things may not seem applicable to a single business or to people at this sort of level in Canterbury, but it can have a knock-on effect of how algorithms change, how content is being served across the board. Really, as ever, on Instagram and on Facebook, if you're still using it, or on other channels, you're going to see differences in the feed on Instagram, where a lot of your content will be shared in a more creative way to non-followers, prioritizing making sure that you've got interesting imagery, that you've got carousels of imagery, the text that you use for any social media promotion, it's going to be scanned. Obviously, Ben's going to be talking a lot about AI and on websites, and the same things are applicable on social media, making sure that your content is has got the right keywords and you're using the right text to really reach the best audiences. Again, it's a huge subject I could go into, and if anyone's got specific questions, do let me know. There are bigger questions about AI as well on social media, about potential backlash of people using it. So it's just people being very wary about how you're using AI creatively, how you're using it in your image and in your text. Again, not about what we're talking about for how AI is scanning your website. But it's a subject, again, that I'm very happy to talk about if people have specific questions or queries on that. It's more on the sort of the grassroots level of how that might be applicable to your social media. But that's the overview really for Visit Canterbury. You can come back to me at the end with questions, but I'll hand back to Rachel and to the main talk for today.
Brilliant. Thank you, team. Without further ado, we're over to Ben to talk us through whether our websites are ready for AI bots. Ben, thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone. And thanks for joining us today to talk a little bit more about AI, and particularly how it's relevant to the websites that we've all got. Now, who are Dodgems and Floss to start with? So if you've walked down Canterbury High Street, you may have seen our purple shop front and wondered what goes on inside there. We're a creative agency. We work a lot with branding, but we also pioneer innovative web builds. And when I say innovative web builds, we're talking about the kind of technologies that we use to build the websites for our clients. And as part of this process, a few years ago, we started to think about what AI was going to mean for the future of the types of websites that we were building. No longer is a website just something for human eyes to consume. It has to do more. And that's what we're going to get into today, and how you can make simple changes to your own websites to make sure that they're doing the best by your business, advertising your products and services, and hopefully getting you included in those chats that are taking place now all the time. What we're actually going to do a bit later on is some live testing of websites for Canterbury businesses. So if you'd like us to run a live test on your website and talk about the results in a little bit, please put the website in the chat, and I'm sure Lisa and Rachel can help us choose some to have an experiment with. But before we get to that, let's delve into what we're talking about and learn a little bit more about neural web optimization. So, AI readiness. When we're saying AI readiness, what we're really talking about is whether your website is ready to be accessed by artificial intelligence. Now, any website that's currently on the internet can be used by AI. And indeed, if you've got a website on the internet at the moment, it probably has been used, at least for training of the AI models that we use, things like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Copilot. That training kind of makes up the brain of what the AI is, and it's really learning kind of a sequence of words for large language models or pixels for image generators. It's the AI trying to learn what would normally come next. But when you ask a question to an AI model when it's finished, it needs to go out and find the answer to that question if it's not something that it knows about. And especially if it's something current, like a product or a service, if you've got news, anything that's relevant and current, it has to go out and retrieve in real time. And there's logic to why these models like ChatGPT choose some websites over others when they're trying to retrieve this information, and end up through the conversation promoting certain businesses over others. So where we are right now is right at the very beginning of the AI age. And I think at this point, we can all say that it will be an age. I think we've come to that point where we know that this is the direction of travel. Priority is going to be given to information that's designed to be consumed by machines. So not only are we having to think about the human eyes that see the web content that we put out there and social content anymore, we need to think about the machines that will consume it and how they will use it in answering people's questions, and in completing research on behalf of people, because often it's not even a question anymore, it's a conversation, and it's these artificial intelligence bots and chat bots automatically suggesting and feeding into the conversation. So what AI is really looking for is information that has clear provenance, is easily accessible, is properly labeled, and is delivered to it fast. And we'll talk a little bit more about why those things are so important to AI in just a moment. Now, as businesses, as small business owners, why should we care? Essentially, we're talking about how we're perceived by machines, and if our perception by machines is positive and authoritative, then that will be passed on to the users who, up until a few years ago, would have found us just through searching on Google or another search engine and ended up on our website, and then we've got full control over what it is that they see and they do. That's changing. And so that perception that we can give to these chatbots is becoming very important, especially as we look even slightly into the future with how AI agents work. So an AI agent takes our kind of ChatGPT or Copilot chatbot and starts completing tasks on our behalf. But then it goes a step further into robotics and actually the physical world of connecting with AI and completing tasks. Now, already a few months ago, we had the Atlas browser released from OpenAI, which is a browser that you can ask for a reservation in a restaurant in Canterbury. You can tell it what kind of food you like, how many kids you've got and how old they are. and it will go off, and not only will it find a restaurant, it will check that it's got availability on the day and time that you want, and if they're using something like OpenTable, it will go ahead and book that table for you and give you the confirmation, all done without you even having to think about or choose which restaurant you wanted. Then you've got agents like OpenClaw, which came out just days ago, which take over your whole computer and will, whilst you're discussing something with them, reply to your emails, send a WhatsApp message. It's becoming at a point now where this is permeating into every aspect of our lives. So how we can use our web content to inform these services is becoming more important than ever. Now, already market research firm SparkToro puts 58% of all Google searches in the US ending without a click. Now, the whole point of a search engine used to be that you go on there, you'd search for something, and you'd click on the results, and that would take you to the organizations, the companies, the brands that you wanted to see. Now, AI is just giving users the information they were looking for directly in the search results. So unless you're actually looking for a particular product or service that you want to acquire, if you were just seeking information or comparing things, you can now get that without ever leaving the search engine. And it's the same for services like ChatGPT and Copilot. So we have to really think about the fact that the traffic to our websites is going to fall, and what we do with the traffic that does come to us once it gets there, because it's going to be someone that's looking for something quite different, probably someone that's looking to actually complete an action and has already engaged in that conversation with a chatbot before they get there. So what's neural web optimization? So on the same context there of what we've been talking about in terms of why it's important, neural web optimization is the process of transforming how we make information available in the AI age and how we make that available online. Now, the changes are far-reaching, but there's really very little information publicly available out there in terms of how these tools work. And I guess that's probably quite deliberate, because these are, very new technologies. They're constantly evolving day to day. And so the documentation isn't really there, and all that knowledge that we have of search engine optimization over the last few decades, it just doesn't exist yet. So from our last few years of research, we decided to build a tool. And the tool is designed to check the things that AI is looking for. And we know that that's what it's looking for, because through interacting with the big models, we've seen what it tries to do to our website, to the test websites that we've set up. And we've discovered how it's using information and what importance it's giving to it, along with our research from other sources. Now, there are 4 pillars to neural web optimization, and I'm going to go through in a bit more detail about what each of them are. But essentially, they are speed, content, schema, and API. And the first 2 you're probably more familiar with, and the second 2 are more technical. But we break down every result for every test that we do into these 4 pillars, these 4 categories, so that we can then use those results to help us improve and address any shortcomings that we have that will help us be more prominent when AI chatbots, etc., are accessing our websites in the future. So the research that we've been doing. The tool that we created has been running itself for about 8 months now. We've been promoting it online, and we've had just over 500 tests completed. So at this point, we've got a really good idea of how everyone's doing right now, where the opportunities are, and the most important thing for us today, where you can make changes to really stand out and get ahead of the curve. So let's have a look at the overall score to start with. The blended average score, this really only gives us an idea of how we're faring over time. Interestingly, since we started this when we only had a couple of hundred results, this has actually decreased slightly as more businesses have tested their websites to see where we are. So now we've got a larger sample size. We're looking at an overall score of 38.7%, with 100% being fully optimized for what we understand AI needs at the moment. So there's a long way to go, but it doesn't really tell us how we need to improve. To do that, we need to dig deeper. Speed. So this is the first pillar that I mentioned before. Now, the average score of all the sites that have been tested came out as 80%, which actually sounds pretty good. And speed is something that we've known is important to search engines for a very long time. The problem with the average score of 80% is that the bar is very high, 95% out of 100. Using Google's speed test tools is really where websites need to be if they're going to be featured highly in search results, and in particular, accessed and used by AI in real time. Now, why does AI care about how fast a website is? So imagine that you're having a conversation with a chatbot like ChatGPT. It hates tardiness. It's trying to answer its user's question as quickly as it possibly can. So if your website takes milliseconds longer than it should do to respond, it will go to one of the other options that it's got to retrieve that information. The longer that it takes to have to go to the site to find the information and bring it back, the longer the user is sat there waiting, the worse the experience is. And these tools are very sensitive to that. You know, they're new. They need to be responsive, and users just don't like to wait. We know that if a user has to wait more than a couple of seconds for a website to load, they're more than likely going to close it or go back and try a different result. The same applies with AI. So we need to go further. We need to look through the websites that we have and remove the things that are making them heavy. So if you use a lot of video on your homepage, it might be that you can have video and that's absolutely fine, but it might need putting through some compression software to make it that little bit more agile. And the code might need changing around to make sure that the video downloading doesn't stop the rest of the page from loading before people can get to that information. Images are the same. Don't use images that you don't need to. Don't use big photographs that you don't need to, and make sure everything's compressed. You can check your hosting as well. For a lot of the web hosts that we use as businesses, we won't have a lot of choice about where we go if we're on Squarespace or one of the others. And normally they can be quite performant. So it really is a case of checking what we've got on there. And if you do have a more advanced CMS like Wagtail or WordPress, look at the plugins that you've got installed and what they're doing. Plugins that are out of date, badly configured, or not really necessary, loading them into the pages can really slow things down. So they're easy wins to go through and just clean up what you've actually got there. You could have plugins for all kinds of things that you just don't need to be able to operate the website anymore. Moving on, content. The score not so great on this one. We've known for many, many years now that content is king. It's a well-known phrase that we're all familiar with. So why are we all still scoring so bad when it comes to content, especially as we look at the age of AI, which is interested in nothing else than content, because our content is everything that it needs to know. So when it comes to AI, what we're really thinking about is who are we writing for, and does it answer people's questions? That kind of flips things on its head to the kind of age-old, and we do it as an agency. You know, we're looking to take a human on a journey through a website to educate them about a product or service and take them through an emotional journey to making a purchase, booking a table, coming to visit, whatever it is that we want them to do. AI kind of really isn't interested in that. It needs to answer someone's question. So is the content answering the question of the people using it? And the best way, if you haven't done this already, or if you've got one but haven't dusted it off in a while, is to start with your frequently asked questions. So make sure you've got an FAQ page, and this really is your chance to put words in the mouth of AI. If you can think of all the questions people are likely to ask, and if you can put an answer down, then AI doesn't have to do any work at all. It can grab that, put the answer straight back into the chatbot. You have to be really brutally honest about what people are going to ask, though, for it to be successful. And for an agency like ours, that means, how much do you cost? We've never put pricing information out on the internet before, because our prices tend to depend on the client that we're working with and what they need from us. But we've had to find ways of answering that question, because if we don't, then AI can't find the answer, and it will get the answer from someone who did think about the question and did think about how to answer it. Now, other areas that you can look at, things like regular articles, the things that we know we should be doing anyway, they're really important. But if you're going to go to the length and the time to write articles for your website about something that is of interest to your business and the people that will be interacting with your business or organization, that provenance factor comes in. AI has been heavily biased to fact check, because because of how AI works with basically stringing words together, it does have a habit of making things up. It's called hallucination, as you may be aware. So it's been forced to really double check everything. So if you're writing articles, that provenance needs to be key. So you need to have an author and a date on that article, and go further. Have a bio for that author on your website. Link to their LinkedIn. If you're writing something about retail, and then it links through to your LinkedIn, which shows your work experience in retail and how long you've been running your business and the kinds of things that you do, that information is much more valuable to an AI chatbot than just an article on your website that talks about retail. It gives it a credibility and a confidence that means that AI can be assertive when it answers someone's question and confident. And that's a real way that you can transform the content that you're probably writing anyway into a massive win. So I'd definitely recommend spending some time here, looking at what you're writing. And if you're using AI to generate the content in the first place, make sure that you're giving it a really detailed brief, a really detailed prompt about what it is that you want to write about, and then take what it gives you, check any statements, any statistics or anything else, but most importantly, edit it yourself and make sure you give it your own tone of voice. There's nothing wrong with using AI for research and to speed up generating content, but don't use it verbatim. Not least because it will probably contain at least some inaccuracies. Even now, the accuracy of AI, I think the last time I checked, it was still below 90% in terms of what that output performs at in terms of accuracy. So don't take it as you're using an encyclopedia. It's just not that factual. But make sure you give it your own flavor and tone of voice, and make sure that fits with the tone of voice of your other articles and your website. And you can actually tell these chatbots to go through your website, read your existing articles, and make sure you make it tell you about your existing articles to prove that it has read them. And then you can ask it to use a similar tone of voice to write your next piece, which can be a helpful kind of head start in getting really good content out of chatbots. So we've all got a bit of work to do on that one. But now getting into the more technical areas. Schema is actually really important, and the thing that our test results show is that it's either nailed and done really well, or it doesn't exist at all. So what is it? This is how we tell AI what our content is. Without any kind of schema, we are relying on AI taking all the text that we've written and then trying to figure out what that text is and what it means. So is this author information? Is this our opening times? Is this the address of the business? What's the telephone number? It has to figure all that out for itself. Schema is a way that we can label all that information properly so that AI can just get it immediately. So who are the business owners? When was it founded? That can all be wrapped up in a language that that AI can understand and process much more quickly. And it's coded directly into the pages on our websites. Now, the vast majority of websites can be updated to use this well, but it's not something that's necessarily easy for the vast majority of us to go in and do. It's something that can take a bit of research, and you might want to find someone who can dive in and have a look and see how that can be enabled for you if you haven't got it on there already. A lot of the off-the-shelf website providers these days, like Squarespace, do have provision for this. It's just a case of getting in there, having a look, and taking the time to set it up. For example, if you've got an FAQ and you've got blogs, if you're not telling AI about what the FAQs are and what the blogs are to help it understand, then you're missing a big opportunity to make sure that that information is front and center and found before competitors may be found. Finally, API driven. So this is getting really technical now, and this is more of a signpost to you for when you're looking for a future website build. Now, 74% of the sites tested had no API-driven capabilities at all. That's because a lot of sites out there are aging now. They're built on technologies that are a few years old, and AI is a relatively recent invention. And even though API-driven is a tried and tested technology, it just hasn't really been necessary until the last few years. Now, what is it? We're talking about separating the back end, where the information is held on your website, from the front end, the display. And when you think about it from an AI's perspective, the front ends that we create are normally for humans. We're creating that experience for them. We want to showcase what it is that we offer, and entice them in. AI doesn't want that. It doesn't want any of that. That's costly to process, time consuming. It wants to go straight to the data. It wants to go to the information. It wants to query a server and get that information back out again, just the bit that it wants. And that's what being API driven enables. So no more scraping, no more processing, direct access is what it's really looking for. If it's not something that's set up already for your website, it could be a big change. But this is something to flag for your next brief when you're getting a website done, if you're working with an agency, a freelancer, or if you're looking on off-the-shelf tools. Try and make sure that it's something that has this separation, because that's going to give you a big leg up in the future. Okay, that's the information about what it is that we're looking for and why. So why don't we test a few websites, and then we can talk about the actual results and give them some meaning and some context. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my slides, and instead I'm going to share the tool. Right, so hopefully now you're seeing a very scary looking pulsating blob with a search bar. And while we have a look in the chat for some other ones to try, we're going to run canterbury.co.uk through a quick check just to give us a starting point, and we'll see what comes out the other side. So what's happening now is the tool is using Google PageSpeed and other tools to do some standard web tests for SEO, but it's going further, and it's trying to make these direct connections to the website that AI would do. It's looking for those tags that tell it what information is and what it does, and ultimately it's behaving like Claude or Copilot or whatever it is that you use would do. So I think we're pretty much finished there. So we're in this website can be a great website, but it's not ready for AI yet. It gives us a clear indication. But what really matters is the areas where it's not ready. So the first one is, speed is good. That's really helpful, because at least the information that is on there can be accessed quickly by AI and returned back. And as we were talking about earlier, that's a really fundamental kind of, if the site's too slow, none of the rest really matters, because it's never going to make the point where it actually gets used for anything. All that the mobile friendly one there means is that when tested for mobile, it dipped just below that 95% kind of threshold. Could be because of the size of images, it could be because of the amount of text. There could be something on there that's just making it that little bit slower, but with an overall score of 96%, that's not an area that we really need to worry about. As I mentioned, with API driven, tends to be all or nothing. So this site isn't one where the back and the front parts of the site are separated. That's not something that we can easily fix, but when looking at doing the site in the future for a new version of it, that's something that would be great to bake into the brief, the tender, whatever it is that's happening. That would be something to specify, and specifically with a view to how that's going to be used for AI use in the future. Schema, again, not implemented here. So what that really means is that the information that's on that site isn't being labeled in a way that helps AI use it quicker. So it would be quite a manual process for AI to process the information on the website and then go back to the chatbot or tool with that information. And then finally, content. So it is picking up metadata, which is another way that we tell automated systems what information is. So that's good. And it's picking up that there are articles on the site, which again, one of the most infuriating things that we've found with running these tests is when articles are present, but they're just not being picked up as articles by AI. So they're not being interpreted and used. And all that great content is kind of a blind spot to these AI tools. But what it's not picking up, and they could be there, but it's not picking them up from the way the content is structured, is things like the timestamps, the FAQs, and the reviews that these tools really, really like to to have there to give that kind of provenance. Timestamps are really important. If you're asking ChatGPT, tell me, what are the latest sales on in my area, and if you've got an article or an FAQ and it's not dated, then that timestamp's really important with the chatbot knowing what's real time and what's not. It doesn't want a sale from last week, it wants a sale from this week. Right, I think that's everything that we can do on that one. Lisa, Rachel, I don't know if you had any questions on that, or if you want to delve into another one, and we'll see what we can dig up.
This is so timely and fascinating. I missed this session when you did it earlier in the year, so love it. And you'll all be pleased to know we are looking to commission a new Visit Canterbury website. So this is super timely and helpful. So we have had a few in the chat.
Okay.
Retail, hospitality, education, and entertainment. So we could start from the top. So the first one that came in was from the Gulbenkian. Can you see that?
Have a look. Yes. Okay. So the Gulbenkian website. Let's pop it in and see what happens. Hopefully, I'm copy and pasting the right thing. There we go. Right. As with all tools like this, there are limitations. So we'll see if we run into any. But this is now firing off a load of requests to the lovely Gulbenkian website, behaving as if it's an AI chatbot, and see what it can find. And let's see what results start to come in. And it's interesting because the length of time that it takes to do this gives you an idea of kind of what these chatbots are waiting for. I mean, we all remember what it's like to be searching for something and you click on loads of links and you try the first few and it's not what you actually wanted. And yet we can be really impatient when we're waiting for ChatGPT to do it on our behalf. We expect it to just do it all instantly and give us what we wanted to know. Okay, right. I think we're there. So we're scoring just below 50%. So we've got a level of optimization here that's very helpful. But let's dig into where it's performing well and where it's not. So going back to speed, again, above average from all the 500 sites that have been tested so far, but not good enough for what AI is looking for. So response time means that the server that the website is running on responded quickly. So that's a good start, because if the server's slow, there's not a lot else we can do other than probably move web hosts, try and find a different environment to have our website in the future. But it's dropping down on the speed optimization. So this would be where you look at what plugins are installed, whether your images are properly compressed and optimized. If you've got video content, does it need to be there? How is it being loaded? Is it blocking the rest of the site from loaded? Are any of the other scripts blocking the site from being loaded before they're finished? That would be a good starting point to dig into, because there's ground to be gained there. And I would always say that this is the first kind of pillar of NWO that you want to get right. So once that's sorted, API driven is something, again, that would be great to bake into the next version. Make sure that's something that you're asking for, just from a future proofing perspective. But we already know that this is something that AI is looking for, and given the direction of travel, I would absolutely want it to be part of any brief that a business that we were working with was putting out. Schema has been implemented. Great. So we've been able to pull things like business information and details about the organization directly from the schema without having to search around the website trying to find different pieces of information. There's details about the different pages and what they are and what they contain. And there's breadcrumb information. So it's leaving a trail back so the AI can see the landscape of what it's working with and how to navigate around. Author information doesn't seem to be present. As I mentioned before, it could be there, but it's not labeled in a way that we think AI would be able to pick that up right now. So really good. It's there. It just needs a bit of tweaking to make sure that it's optimal. And it is, some of these things are things that get enabled when a site is built and then don't get maintained and updated as we add pages and more content and the site grows. So it is easy for some of these things to fall behind, but that would be probably an easy win to get that up to 100%. And then it goes on to content. So again, we've got metadata and timestamps, great. but we're not finding the articles, FAQs, and reviews. There might not be articles, FAQs, and reviews. And for some of you out there, you'll probably be thinking, how would I have some of those things on my site? Like, does my restaurant need articles? Does my shop need articles about things? Try and find a way of making it relevant and insightful and useful, because if you can, the content that it generates for these chatbots will be invaluable, because someone could be talking around a product or a service that you offer, and your article talking about that, about the areas around what you do, could become part of that conversation. And then before you know it, your shop, your business, your organization gets mentioned as part of that discussion. That's invaluable free advertising, and that's what we really want. We really want to be there as an authoritative kind of thought leader in our different spaces and in our professions. So not an awful one overall. Work to be done. Some really good improvements that could probably be made there to get that up. API driven isn't something that's going to be an easy fix, but the rest of it I think could be quite easily tackled, which would be a really good outcome, I think, for the Gulbenkian site. Right, should we try the next one down?
Yeah, so that's a thank you from the Gulbenkian.
Thank you.
Yeah, the next one down is the China shop. So that's a retail shop.
Okay, so I think that's chinashop.co.uk. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, there's a second link. Yeah, that should be it.
Or is it the chinashop.co.uk? Should we have a quick look? Bear with me just a second. I'm just going to
trying that as well.
Just to make sure we don't point the tool somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yes, the chinashop.co.uk. That is the one, I think.
Yeah, the chinashop.co.uk.
Yeah, I can see the URL
Amazing.
now.
Fab. Let's pop that in and let's set it in motion again. Looks very beautiful from a human perspective, I have to say. Let's see what an AI bot would make of it. Okay. So what's going to come back in first? They're just finishing off. So this is a site that has e-commerce, which can be tricky because these can be quite heavy sites. There can be a lot of imagery, a lot of content, also complex storage of all those different products that need to be in a database and retrieved kind of in real time for the user. So that can really weigh things down. Interestingly, on speed, response time was a bit slow. It didn't pass on response time. So the server that it's coming from is adding a delay before anything comes back to the user, and in that sense, back to the AI. So that would be a good one to talk to whoever the web host is, and it could be a platform like Shopify, or it could be a WordPress site, or one of the other off-the-shelf options. It'd be good to reach out to them, say that the response time seems to be a bit slow from the server, and is there anything that can be done to speed that up? Sometimes it can be that it's running on an older server, it's just a bit slow. There could be a lot of other sites sharing the bandwidth that's coming in and out. It could be that moving it to its own dedicated space could help. So especially if you're working with a provider where you can open a support ticket, it's almost always worth asking the question. Other speed is probably slow because of the images. It might be possible to go through and optimize a lot of those to make them load quicker. And there might be changes that the provider can make to allow the rest of the site to load faster without waiting for the images. But a large part of being below the 80% kind of average and below the 95% we're looking for there could literally just be because the server is responding a bit slowly. API driven, not on this one. So again, another thing to flag for the future. Schema is enabled, which is brilliant. So what we need to figure out now, it's got the key kind of business information there, which makes it really easy for AI to grab that and know about the business. Checking what is in schema for the business information. It's really important to make sure that's up to date. But then the other areas look like they need to be built out. So whatever platform this is, have a look in there, have a look in the CMS or whatever you can log into. See if there are areas where you can edit the schema directly, or if there's any support on how that's generated, and see if that can be built out to cover these other areas. And again, for content, so it is picking up that there's metadata there describing what some of the things are. It's picked up articles, brilliant. But it's not picking up some of the other things. So it will just be a case of going through and seeing, especially if there's like a back-end CMS, oftentimes you'll have the area where you can edit the content in the pages, and then there will be kind of an SEO or a metadata or another kind of tab where you can get in and you can access some of these things. It'd be really good to have a proper rummage. If it is if you are working with a larger provider, then definitely create a ticket and see if they can support you with some of these things. But I would definitely, I'd definitely get into that, because there's potential here to make really great improvements in terms of schema and content that could really give you a boost. So yeah, don't shy away from it. I would get involved on this one, because you could probably get some great wins that won't cost you anything to make them. And then next time, looking for an alternative platform in the future, or if you decide to do a bigger update, then yeah, ask some questions around being API driven and how you can separate the all that data that you have for the products that you offer and how it's presented to the world, not just to the front end that we see as humans, but also to voice assistants, to chatbots and everything else. Okay.
Amazing.
Did you want to do another
do you have time
one?
For one? Do you have time for another one?
More. Go on, let's do a last one.
So Jodie, I'm wondering if you want us to do Canterbury Brewers and Distillers or the other site.
Yeah, which one should we go for?
Just seeing if Jodie might have a view, but maybe we could go for Canterbury. Either one is WordPress and one is Shopify. So the China shop was Shopify.
Okay.
And then, so she says either one. Maybe go for Canterbury Brewers and Distillers.
Yeah, let's do that. Right, I'm just going to copy the link from there. Let's see if that got it. Yes, it did.
And while that's going, there was one question in here, which is, are much larger corporates ahead of the game here and performing much higher in all four areas? Are you seeing a trend?
It's a really good question, and yes, a lot of the larger corporates have already got that kind of infrastructure, particularly for API driven, where they're separating the back end of where all their data is stored and the front end, often because they're using that data for different things. So actually that kind of architecture, which is not new, but it is kind of a really sensible and clever way of designing a web infrastructure. They just tend to be a step ahead of the curve in that. That doesn't mean that they're perfect on everything, and there are a lot of issues and oversights, particularly with the content that they use. But technologically, they do tend to be a bit more advanced because they're commissioning these custom websites as opposed to using some of the off-the-shelf tools. The great news is the off-the-shelf tools like Squarespace and Wix are making leaps and bounds now into addressing some of these issues because they have to get their clients ready for AI. So it's not the case anymore that you have to spend a ton of money if you want to be ready for this. It's just knowing where to look and to ask the right questions. Okay, so I think all the results are in. Very similar score, just below 50%. Speed's coming in a little on the low side. I wonder why that is. I wonder if this is the Shopify one or the WordPress one.
This is WordPress about to migrate to Shopify, and I think it might. Well, there's a gorgeous video in the front. There is, and from a human perspective, I wouldn't want to lose that. But thinking about how we can stop it weighing down the programmatical side of the transactions with the site would be really, really good. But it is a great video. And this is where there is a fine balance between creating that human experience is still so important, because if someone's talking to ChatGPT, for example,
And this is one of the suggestions that it talks about, and it's talking about the craft and everything that it's pulling through from the site, because the schema is implemented and it's able to just grab that information nice and quickly. You still want to give an experience to the person when they finally land on the website. But it's if it's not quick enough, if it's not serving that information back enough, the chances of being in that conversation are just diminished so much. So it's a really difficult balance to find. But looking at compression and looking at code that doesn't block the rest of the site from loading would be a really good go-to here. Server speed, if it's a WordPress site, it could be on an older server, it could be on a slower server. Be a good one to talk to your web host about to see if that can be sped up. No API driven here, which we would expect. That is possible with WordPress now. I don't think it used to be until more recently. But again, for Shopify, I'm not sure that would be achievable, but the way that Shopify is working to try and address these challenges is just as relevant. So I wouldn't worry too much about that if you're moving to a hosted platform. Definitely get into schema and seeing what is set up here, because this looks really good. It's been well implemented initially. It could just be that there's some tweaks and changes that could give you a score of 100 there. And then for content, again, it might be tweaking that schema to make sure that we're pulling out some of those things. Just having a quick look at the site now, and there is a lot of content on there. We need to make sure that it's being put front and center. But do we have a clearly discoverable FAQ? That would be a really great thing to have on this, talking about the whole process. How you brew, how you distill, how these products are made, how they came about, why Canterbury, why is that relevant to this, why that makes the story magical, the costs and everything else. All that can be baked into FAQs. Doesn't need to be super prominent on the front page, so long as it's properly labeled in schema. The AI will find it and it will use it. And the same for reviews. I'm not sure if there's reviews on here. You don't have to have some kind of live plugin to reviews, but you can create a review section with some real customer reviews. Make sure they're properly labeled with a real name and dated, and they will give you a benefit as long as they're properly tagged and labeled. And I think that's it.
Amazing.
So I've got a couple of bits to wrap up with, just to summarize. Wonderful. Shall I quickly do that? And then if there's any other questions, I'm happy to jump in and take them. So let me stop sharing this. Just going to go back to the last slide here. There we go. Okay. So I've just popped a QR code up on the screen. This will take you to the tool. So if you want to jump to nwo.dodgemsfloss.com, if you just want to scan that on your phone, it works great on your phone. If you want to just do some tests on your mobile, pop on there, and you can have some fun testing your own sites, testing other people's sites. It's very insightful. And on that page as well, when you finish your testing, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a link there to the leaderboard. And so you can see how you rank against lots of other different sites. So if you want to pop in a few big enterprise sites and see how they're doing, do it, see how they fare. It's a real-time leaderboard, so everyone's moving up and down depending on how the scores go. Have some fun with it, but hopefully learn some things from it that will help you make some great changes to your websites and help Canterbury businesses become even more visible for the great things that we're already doing. Now, the landscape is changing really, really quickly, and it is changing day to day. And it's taken a lot of resource for us to make this tool and keep it current and try and keep up with the rate of change that is happening. But what we're focusing on is those really key, clear areas where you can make changes that will yield improvements. Just to give you a real zoomed out landscape, Citigroup's forecasting that total AI spend is going to eclipse $2.8 trillion by 2029. So there is there's no plan B here for tech giants, investors, and even governments. The amount of money that is being poured into this technological revolution is too big to change. And even if the bubble pops tomorrow, the change is here for good. Just like when we had the .com kind of roller coaster, the technology was sound and fundamentally there. Yes, there was a lot of money chasing some quite spurious kind of ideas for what the internet might be, but the internet hasn't exactly gone away, and AI is not going to go away either. So keep the faith. This is a very important change that we're seeing happening, and regardless of what happens in the financial markets, we need to be ready for it. The easiest thing that we can do to get ahead is, we've thought about our websites from a human perspective and from our buyer's perspective. You know, we work a lot with personas. Think about who your typical customer is. They're looking at your site. What is it they want to do? What is it they want to find? Now we need to step back from that and think, right, how is the AI looking at the website? What is it trying to find? What does it need? And think about the person, your customer, that is asking ChatGPT and Copilot these questions, and how you're going to answer those questions via those platforms. So this could have started as an AI supported search in Google with the automatic contributions from Gemini now, which are happening on every search. It could be a conversation with ChatGPT, or it could be a voice request to Alexa that's bringing back some information. We know that Google Gemini is being baked into Apple's Siri within the next month or two. Again, that's going to revolutionize and transform what people are doing with voice assistants. So your customer is coming at you now from all kinds of different directions, but you still control the content that is there on your website that's going to be going back the other way. So really important to be thinking about where the person is coming from and how you're going to get that information back to them. What do you want to say? It's your chance to control the narrative of what these assistants are saying. Use the tool, use it to make quick adjustments and wins, and then test again, and then see how that's worked, and then you can keep using it to refine. You can keep coming back every few months to test again with the latest kind of changes and updates that we've made to it, and adjust your content and your calls to action with AI in mind. So again, FAQs would be the best place to start for everyone, but just keep thinking about what needs to be said, but also what your customer is now going to do when they get to your website, because they've probably already had the educational bit and the journey with the chatbot that they were talking to. When they get to your website, don't make it difficult for them to find the thing they want and buy it. You know, that's got to have to now be the front and center. Or if it's booking a table or whatever it is that you do, there is a way that you can give it to that person quicker and easier. So just be thinking about that. And if you do want to make a bigger play for your slice of the AI future, if you're interested in discovering this more, then of course we'd love to talk to you. At Dodgems Floss, we're kind of obsessive around all this technology and what we can do with it. So yeah, I'm always more than happy to hear from anyone if they would like to like to learn more and think about how they can make their own play for their slice of the AI future. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely brilliant and super, super helpful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yep, lots of thank yous in the chat, and I think really helpful for us in Canterbury. So, and it's a free tool on your website, which is brilliant. So we'll be sharing that, sharing the recording of this. But for now, I wish everyone a fantastic afternoon. And Ben, please pass on our thanks to the rest of the team too. It's great to see you.
Will do. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.